Drake is among a list of rappers potentially appearing as witnesses in the trial of South Florida rapper XXXTentacion.
The temperature in the hip-hop world has gone from simmering to full-scale blaze. What started as a war of words between Drake and Kendrick Lamar has now mutated into something much darker, something that doesn't just play out in the booth, but on the streets, in courtrooms, and potentially behind closed gates of multi-million-dollar estates. The beef is no longer lyrical, it's no longer just diss tracks. Now it's about power, about intimidation, about territory. And if the latest developments are to be believed, it may have already turned violent.
Drop that track, have it listened to, and have the world kind of respond is something that has not necessarily been the case in hip-hop history.
When Kendrick stepped onto that Toronto stage, Drake's turf, his throne, his fortress, and didn't just perform Not Like Us, but did it 5 times in a row like a ritual, we knew the rules had changed. He wasn't just throwing lyrical jabs anymore, this was psychological warfare. The track, now blasted at NBA games and creeping its way into party playlists worldwide, doesn't just call Drake a predator. It paints him as a man whose empire may be built on secrets, and worse, the exploitation of others. And Kendrick didn't flinch, didn't blink. He did it in Drake's city, in front of Drake's fans, under the shadow of the CN Tower. A move so audacious, people aren't calling it a performance, they're calling it an invasion. The atmosphere that night was charged but not celebratory. The energy felt less like a concert and more like a warning shot. Fans were dancing, but security was tight. There were whispers about gang presence in the crowd. A few sources claimed they spotted familiar LA faces backstage. Not artists, but figures known for less melodic pursuits. The symbolism wasn't subtle. Kendrick wasn't trying to entertain, he was claiming ground. And if Toronto was the castle, Not Like Us was the battering ram.
They're really poets. They're really two people who have the ability to see, listen, and then spit back lyrics.
Drake's retaliation came swiftly, not just through lyrics, but through something more cryptic. What Did I Miss, dropped unexpectedly, came wrapped in venom. This wasn't just a response to Kendrick, it was a call out to his own circle. He laced the track with bitterness, naming names without naming names. Downfall, to a traitor, he snapped. Love for my brothers. The betrayal he's referring to, it's not just artistic, it's personal. Longtime collaborators seen at Kendrick's LA show, producers hedging their bets. Even old friends reportedly distancing themselves from the fallout. The paranoia is growing and Drake's not hiding it anymore. But it wasn't just the lyrics, it was the eerie live stream that rattled fans to their bones. Broadcast under the banner of Iceman Episode 1, Drake appeared in a freezer surrounded by rifles on a dusty television set. The camera cuts, long and deliberate, started in a dimly lit warehouse, the kind of place where deals go down, not records get made. Then, the truck. And Drake behind the wheel, cruising through Toronto, a cryptic number splashed across the door, and a website URL that led nowhere. It wasn't promotion, it felt like surveillance. Some fans shrugged it off, others said it was a threat, pure and simple. Especially when just hours later, reports surfaced of a shooting outside Drake's home.
Now that shooting has certainly turned a spotlight on that feud. The two rappers have been engaged in a lyrical battle in recent weeks, and that heated up this past weekend.
No one was harmed, but the symbolism, loud and clear. This wasn't a random act. The timing, the proximity to Kendrick's performance, the eerie tone of the live stream, all of it suggests something brewing underneath the surface. Drake's mansion isn't just a home anymore, it's a bunker. And from what we're hearing, security's been doubled, some say tripled. Not just cameras, but private military-style patrols circling the grounds. You don't pull that kind of protection unless you know something the public doesn't. There's also increasing chatter about the so-called Iceman Syndicate. A conspiracy, sure, but not without fuel. Industry insiders point to recent hires in Drake's camp, names that don't appear in entertainment databases, but are linked to private security firms, tactical training programs, and allegedly even former law enforcement. One ex-tour manager claims a new division within Drake's circle is handling things behind the scenes, keeping tabs on potential threats, including, reportedly, Kendrick's own crew. Nothing's confirmed, but the language around Drake's operations is getting colder, more calculated, more dangerous.
This is a beef that I didn't think would ever remotely get violent.
No, I didn't either.
So now y'all
I thought they
wishing-
would up with them backpacks and then start
That's what I'm
battling
saying.
like
Now you-
SOBs.
y'all-
On the flip side, Kendrick isn't exactly walking into this without backup. Sources close to TDE say he's been compiling a dossier, not just diss tracks, but hard data. Alleged settlement payments, sealed court documents, social media connections, even financial ties between Drake and known felons. One particularly damning thread, an incident from 2017 involving a woman named Laquana Morris, who accused Drake of misconduct during his UK tour. Drake's team shut it down with a $350,000 payout and a tight-lipped NDA bite. But Kendrick may have access to documents that never made it public. And that's just one layer. Word is he's also investigating the Baka Not Nice link, The rapper signed to OVO with a past tied to trafficking allegations. And what about the allegations that Drake fathered another child, the so-called hidden daughter? Kendrick didn't just float it in Meet the Grams. He named her age, 11. Fans were quick to dismiss it as theater, but there's mounting buzz that someone from Drake's own circle may have leaked the story, thinking it would never go public. If Kendrick drops evidence, even partial, the backlash could be nuclear. The only question is whether he's bluffing or just biding his time.
Heavy accusations. And it's not like they're really trying to hold each other accountable. They just throwing these types of accusations around to attempt to ruin the image of the other. And that's whack to me. Other than that.
But let's be clear, the accusations aren't all flowing one way. Drake's not shy about turning the microscope on Kendrick either. Family Matters painted a brutal picture of alleged domestic turmoil between Kendrick and his longtime partner Whitney Alford, a move that had people calling foul. Drake doubled down, referencing therapy teams, crisis PR, and whispered rumors that Kendrick's own household is far from the moral high ground he raps from. And in The Heart Part 6, he didn't just dismiss the charges against him. He claimed he fed Kendrick fake intel, a trap, an ambush. "We plotted for a week," he raps. "We fed you the information. If true, it's genius. If not, it's desperation." In the meantime, fans are still picking sides, but it's not just about the music anymore. This is about credibility, about danger, and about how far each artist is willing to go to come out on top. Because after Kendrick turned a club hit into a war chant, and after Drake's Iceman livestream sent shivers through the fandom, it's no longer clear that either of them wants a truce. The music? It was the first weapon. Now we're looking at territory, silence, surveillance, and shadows.
Musically, I think this was great. The only thing that I don't like is, and this is what we're here to talk about this morning.
Right.
I don't like seeing these brothers Me Tooing each other over a rap.
And yet, even with everything already out in the open, the alleged hidden daughter, the drive-by live stream, the back-to-back disses laced with accusations, there's still one card Kendrick hasn't played. And insiders say it could be the one that shatters the table entirely. The rumors are getting louder. Kendrick might be sitting on proof that Drake's pen, the one that's written chart toppers for more than a decade, was never really his. We're talking about alleged contracts, DM exchanges, and raw reference tracks whispered to be circulating through private circles in LA and Atlanta. Names are starting to leak. Obscure co-writers, forgotten session vocalists, even an engineer who claims he once received a cash envelope and an NDA for recording someone else's verses that later showed up under Drake's name. One former tour coordinator said Kendrick's team has been quietly collecting receipts since spring, long before Not Like Us detonated. If that's true, the diss tracks were never the real plan. They were just distractions, smoke grenades while the real war played out in silence. And it's not just lyrics. There's talk Kendrick may expose publishing splits that show Drake knowingly took credit for bars he didn't write. If that happens, if Kendrick drops the so-called black box of evidence, we're not just talking about a diss track victory. We're talking about a nuclear-level character implosion. In a culture where authenticity is currency, ghostwriting isn't just a red flag, it's career-ending.
A long-standing feud between rap artist Drake and Kendrick Lamar is once again heating up after the release of diss tracks back-to-back, and we really mean back-to-back.
Meanwhile, Toronto is still smoldering from Kendrick's takeover. His performance at Scotiabank Arena has split the city right down Yonge Street. Some fans say it was a gutsy act of dominance, something that elevated the craft, but others, especially those raised on Drake's come-up story, saw it as a line-crossing violation. Local radio DJs debated it live on air. Community boards lit up with chatter about street loyalty. One popular Toronto influencer posted, "This ain't rap beef no more, it's cultural warfare." Another tweet, now deleted, claimed that certain venues in the Six are quietly blacklisting any DJ who spins Not Like Us. That claim hasn't been confirmed, but we've heard from at least one promoter who said they aren't touching that track for now. Why? Too hot, too messy. And it's not just the fans who are feeling the tension. Behind the scenes, multiple industry execs are reportedly urging both artists to cool things off. Not because of brand fatigue, but because the feud is bleeding into dangerous territory. There are whispers that one music mogul even reached out to both teams personally, warning that what started as a rap feud is now flirting with real-world consequences. They're talking about security risks, they're talking about copycats. One A&R at a major label compared it to the Meek Mill situation on steroids, except this time the streets are watching too close and too many people want to be involved.
Would you?
I thought, wow, Drake, thank you.
It's pretty nice, right?
I did. So I had to, of course, I wasn't going to let that go undone.
But even as the public devours every new diss, every leaked clip, every veiled jab on social media, there's a quieter storm unfolding behind the curtain, one that doesn't make headlines but might be the most dangerous part of all. Fame on this scale isn't just exhilarating, it's corrosive. Drake, once the smiling golden boy of hip-hop, has evolved into a figure marked by suspicion and solitude. His bars on "What Did I Miss?" don't just call out fake friends. They read like the journal entries of someone who doesn't know who to trust anymore. The veiled lines about being surrounded by enemies, about people he once loved aligning with rivals, hint at a deeper emotional fracture. When betrayal becomes the air you breathe, paranoia isn't just a side effect. It's survival. Kendrick, too, isn't immune to the psychological weight of this conflict. He's always been a cerebral artist, one who turns internal battles into public poetry. But there's something different in the cadence of this feud, a fire that burns hotter, a vengeance that feels personal, not just professional. The repetition of Not Like Us, the obsessive detail in Meet the Grams. They don't just suggest lyrical strategy, they suggest obsession, the kind of fixation that keeps you up at night. For someone who typically withdraws from the spotlight between albums, Kendrick's sudden, extended exposure could be as mentally draining as it is creatively explosive. It's one thing to be a rap champion, it's another to stay there while your opponent lives rent-free in your head.
What's the point of asking if you're going to do what you want to do anyway? At least if, you didn't ask and you did it, you can apologize.
Right.
This isn't just a battle for dominance, it's emotional warfare. And when both combatants are locked inside echo chambers of their own making, surrounded by yes men, stalked by tabloids, and dissected by millions, the pressure doesn't just mount, it mutates. Every song becomes a test of masculinity. Every silence is interpreted as weakness. Neither can blink without risking everything. At some point, the adrenaline wears off, and what's left is the raw damage, sleepless nights, broken trust, a mind spinning through what ifs and what's next. We celebrate the bars, but ignore the burnout. And if this feud continues to escalate, we have to ask, will it be creativity that pays the price? Or something even more personal? And what about those accusations Kendrick hurled in Meet the Grams and Not Like Us? The underage whispers, the lines about sealed settlements, the references to associates with disturbing pasts. That's not petty trolling, that's reputational annihilation. And while Drake's been firm in his denial, Drake is not a name that you gon' see. On No Offender list, he rapped In the Heart Part 6, that hasn't slowed the wildfire. The allegations have now entered public consciousness, whether or not they're ever proven. Google searches for Drake Settlement Woman 2017 spiked by nearly 500% in the days after Kendrick's releases, and the fact that Drake has a documented history of NDA-driven legal resolutions, including the infamous $350,000 payout to a woman in 2018, only adds fuel to the speculation.
After the single and its art drop, she went on social media and said sometimes you just have to be the bigger guy even if you're a woman.
For some fans, this is about more than two artists exchanging lyrical shots. It's about a reckoning within the culture. Kendrick's verses don't just aim at Drake, they seem to call out the industry's complicity in shielding powerful figures from consequences. When he sneers, the embassy about to get raided too, it's a clear nod to recent headlines about major hip-hop moguls facing FBI scrutiny. The implication? That Drake's kingdom might be hiding more skeletons than anyone wants to believe. It's unconfirmed, but the sheer intensity of the lyric has people on edge. Is it just metaphor? Or does Kendrick know something we don't? Drake's response, on the other hand, feels more like damage control than a counterpunch. In The Heart Part 6, he swerves into deflection, mocking Kendrick's pace, belittling his sources, and floating the idea that Kendrick got duped into spitting lies. We fed you the information, he claims. A bold move. But if Kendrick has real proof, that defense crumbles. And let's be honest, who's more believable right now? The reclusive, Pulitzer-winning wordsmith who rarely speaks unless he's surgical? Or the Instagram-savvy superstar with a string of scandals, live streams, and lawsuits in his wake?
Now, Halle Berry is mad at Drake. That's because Drake posted a picture of her being slimed, and this was saying that he was going to put out his new record. She didn't like it.
Even longtime collaborators are being pulled into the gravitational collapse. There's been talk of Metro Boomin distancing himself from Drake permanently. No confirmation, but the chemistry shift is noticeable. SEA, who once appeared alongside Drake on Slime You Out, has gone radio silent. Rick Ross is openly clowning him, and J. Cole, nowhere to be found. After his awkward apology tour and the deletion of 7-Minute Drill, it seems Cole's chosen peace over proximity. Which makes sense. This war is radioactive, and there's still the looming threat of what Drake might be planning next. His Iceman branding isn't just a gimmick, it's calculated, cold, detached, but very much alive. There's speculation that the name references something larger, possibly an upcoming visual project or docuseries designed to reclaim the narrative. We've heard unconfirmed chatter about unreleased footage, surveillance-like clips, and a private vault of behind-the-scenes material dating back over a decade. One source described it as a Drake origin story with teeth. Another said, he's going scorched earth on everyone who doubted him, media, artists, even fans. Whatever it is, if it drops, it's going to cause shockwaves. Whether that's to cover up or expose, we still don't know.
Drake is among a list of rappers potentially appearing as witnesses in the trial of South Florida rapper XXX Tentacion.
The stakes have never been higher. We're watching two of the most powerful voices in hip-hop not just clash, but potentially destroy each other's legacies in real time. The fans are caught in the middle, the industry is holding its breath. And the next move? It could be catastrophic. So now we're left staring at the crossroads. Will Kendrick Lamar finally unleash his rumored exposé and take down one of the most successful artists of our generation? Or will Drake's icy new era melt everything Kendrick's built with one brutal countermove? One thing's for sure, this isn't just music anymore. This is a war of empires, a battle for control, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of the end for one of them. Who do you believe will walk away from this still standing? Drop your theories below, we'll be reading every single one. Stay safe out there, and remember, in hip-hop, silence is never permanent. Until next time.